It's really a privilege to be standing before you once again as we kick off the 5th edition of our annual Money Match campaign. And I know this has already been said, but think of this campaign as it's not just about financial literacy, but it has since evolved into thinking about financial empowerment, inclusion, transformation. And now that we're in year 5, I just wanted to share a bit more around the history of Money Match. How I always think about it is, if, to Mutiso's example earlier, back in 2014, I would say financial literacy was very traditional. It was about how do you save, how do you invest. So just the very basic rules of it. And one thing that we realized as a company is, as there was increased adoption of digital financial products, then financial literacy had actually not evolved with it. So there was a gap. So to give you an example, one day, if you didn't have a bank account, you couldn't access credit. I think at the point I joined TALA, there were 300 plus digital lenders on Play Store. So what happens when consumers have that level of access, but without an update on financial literacy and how they should be thinking about that level of access? And this is some of the challenges we started to see in the market, such as over-indebtedness and so on and so forth. And for us, we were thinking about what is our role as TALA? What is our role as an industry under DFSAC? And this was how Money Match was actually born. So it's a question of how do we actually convert what financial literacy actually looks like to the digitized version. So fast forward to today, gone are the days of just leaving money in your bank. If you want to save, there are multiple digital saving platforms. We've seen ZD launching under Safaricom. So how are we actually really rethinking what financial literacy truly is? And that's the vision behind Money Match. Beyond just the big vision behind Money Match, for us we think about it as how does it also align with our vision as TALA. One thing I was mentioning to, I think, Boniface right before we started was I realized a lot of people don't understand that TALA is actually a very mission-driven company. So for us, it's not just about actually giving access to credit, but it's actually about empowering customers. So how we really think about their financial health, how we educating them, how we ensuring that the types of financial products that we're offering actually align to their needs. And since I think we turned 10 years last year, since then we've actually served or rather over the last 10 years, we've served about 10 million customers across 3 countries with a little over $5 billion disbursed. So I'll just pause there, we can give a clap. Yeah, and I think this speaks to what Mutiso was talking about. It's just the sheer scale of the impact. Just to move on to key things that really stood out for me in the report, similar to Mutiso, it's one of the things I really look forward to year on year. So if I compare the 2023 and the 2024 report, we've seen a continued trend where the high cost of living continues to be one of the biggest pains. So this year it was about 9 in 10 of Kenyans actually saying that they've felt financial challenges over the last 6 months. And out of that, I think it was about 32% saying that they were feeling stressed about their financial situations. However, similar to what Agnes was talking about, the thing that always surprises me is Kenyans are very resilient. So similar to last year, the sentiment about financial well-being continues to be optimistic. So we have about 46% of respondents saying they feel positive about their financial future. It's always a big disconnect for me, especially after watching that video. But I just think it continues to speak to the Kenyan spirit, and we see the same with our customers. One of the things that we were talking about at the table right before the session began is also to do with how customers actually coping with the high cost of living. And over the years, we've seen a very similar trend where customers are saying, hey, I'll just cut down on my unnecessary expenses or luxury items. But what was interesting this year is we actually saw a dip in the percentage of customers who are saying they'll cut down on their expenses. So I remember when we were discussing this internally, it was a question of what might be informing this. And if you think about it, if a customer has been cutting down on their basic expenses for the last 2 years, as we know from the report, there's probably nothing else left to be cutting down. And now that resulted in a new trend that we were seeing for the first time, which is actually a 19 percentage point jump in customers saying they'll borrow more. So just to compare, But last year was 46 minus 19. Can do the math. But essentially this year it's 46% of customers actually saying, I actually need to borrow to be able to meet my needs. And this is whether it's business expenses, it's education, it's day-to-day expenses. And I won't talk about this too much because my colleague Teddy will share more about that. But I found that to be really interesting. Of course, as TALA, we are primarily a credit business. But this, in the past, we've seen actually the opposite trend where customers actually reduce their borrowing if they're not confident in their ability to repay. So just one thing for us to be very aware of. And last but not least, just thinking about investment. And this has been a trend I've seen a lot, even as I'm spending time with customers on the ground. Financial stability and health is top of mind for Kenyans. So they're thinking about it as, hey, I'm having issues today. What are the different actions I can take to make sure I'm more financially healthy and stable down the line? So enter the word investment, and I'm sure Teddy will be talking about this a bit more. But we actually saw a significant number of respondents saying that they're setting aside, let's call it between 11 to 20% of their income for investments. So whether this is putting money in SACCOs, putting money in chamas, leaving it in the bank, and this is just because there's that big desire to grow your wealth, expand my business, plan for retirement, buy that shamba, just the things that we consistently hear from customers. However, just to note with some of the interesting trends, and I say interesting, that we've been seeing around safety of savings, it did come out in the survey where there's a deep fear of loss and lack of trust in investment platforms. So even as customers are actually thinking about where do I invest, where do I save, where put money, will my money be there in 10 years? I think those are some of the things that are coming up. So in conclusion, I would say that this year, just as TALA, beyond the report, we actually want to take Money Match to newer heights. So over the next month, we actually will be doing live financial education sessions with industry experts targeted at customers. We plan to offer exclusive digital tools and resources designed to help individuals and small businesses better manage their finances. And I know we'll be talking about some of these aspects in the panel. And last but not least, I think for us, we do believe we're in a very unique position to foster community conversations that challenge outdated financial norms and encourage new perspectives on wealth building. So as I wrap up, I just want to leave you with this. I believe that financial empowerment, it should not and is not reserved for the privileged few. It is a right that belongs to all of us, whether you're a student, an entrepreneur, business leader, or a business owner, or someone just looking for a fresh financial start. I believe this campaign is for you. Thank you.